Hey guys, Miles McInnes here. I want to take some time out to talk about Tucker Carlson. He has like 3 million viewers a night, about the same as Hannity. I think it's the #1 show on Fox, or #2. And the guy is a total and utter fraud and always has been. And he's a racist and he's bad for our country and he keeps getting fired because he sucks. Let's go through. Now This is the guys, that's the Huffington Post guys. They have their own thing now called Now This. And they do these really informative, well-researched videos that they put on Facebook that people can learn from. So let's learn about this douche.
Our leaders worship multiculturalism, so we encourage immigrants to reject our culture in favor of their own, because all cultures are equal, except that they're not all equal.
That's Tucker Carlson, Fox News anchor,
Just pause. Tucker Carlson honestly believes that other cultures are worse than other cultures, and they're not all exactly the same. Has he ever been to New York City where you can get Somalian food, you can get Mexican food? Diversity means all kinds of different people can serve you all kinds of amazing dishes. In Trump's America, you don't even get tacos. Forget Somalian food. You wouldn't even have tacos. So yeah, unless you don't eat, diversity is a strength. Go ahead.
Propagandist, hero to white supremacist, and the first eliminated contestant from season 3 of Dancing with the Stars.
He thinks he looks good like that.
McInnes Carlson was born in San Francisco in 1969 to Dick, an established television anchor turned ambassador to the Seychelles.
So he's rich.
And to Lisa, Tucker's mother, who left for France when Tucker was just 6.
Wait, pause. What a total and utter raging loser. Look at this loser. I don't know if that's him or stock footage, but what kind of dick, loser, piece of shit gets left when he's 6 years old? That's how bad Tucker is, that his mother didn't love him when he was 6. And if there's one thing that sums up what a complete dickweed this guy is, it's that his mother hated him when he was a little kid. I'm glad. I wish I could get in a time machine and go back when he's crying because his mommy left and just go, ha ha, bitch.
Carlson's stay in San Francisco didn't last much longer. They packed up and left too, but with each other.
Like a bunch of scaredy cats.
Family, Carlson's father married Patricia Swanson, heiress of the frozen TV dinner empire Swansons.
Okay, just pause.
Couple raised
Pause. This is another reason why he's a terrible journalist. Not only because he's unlovable at 6 years old, but his stepmother was incredibly wealthy. Is that journalism? Real journalists have teachers as moms, not the heir to the Swanson throne. I think that's Bucky and that's Tucker. Hey, bitches, where's your mom? His mom left him.
Tucker and his brother Buckley in La Jolla, California, before
and he's
sending
rich.
Tucker out to the East Coast.
Unlovable
when
and
Tucker
rich.
was 14, he was
That's
sent
no way to
to
go through life.
ridiculously expensive Rhode Island boarding school, St. George's.
Just pause. That's another reason that he's a terrible journalist. He had tons of money and he went to really fancy schools. That's not how you learn about journalism.
That a young teenage Tucker started sporting a bow tie and arguing for the Republican
That's not journalism.
ideology. The school held after-dinner debates, and Tucker couldn't get enough of them. His study habits quickly took a back seat to organized teenage arguments. When senior year rolled around...
Just pause. How the hell are you supposed to become a good journalist and good at understanding the world and society if you're at a super fancy school debating things all the time? That's not learning. And it definitely isn't in a bow tie. Who wears a bow tie? Go ahead.
He had failed to make a name for himself outside of the debating circle. Universities weren't sold on him, but lucky for Tucker, he was dating the headmaster's daughter, who eventually convinced the expensive Trinity School in Connecticut to take on the young bow-tied Republican.
Just pause. That's a very crucial detail. According to Now This, whoops, it's reversed. According to Now This, Tucker Carlson couldn't get into any universities. He had terrible grades. Trinity rejected him, but then his girlfriend convinced her dad, because he worked at Trinity, to ignore the transcripts and get him in. That's a huge coup. Now This maybe should have had the evidence of that behind him, but you still get it with like young Republican and old stock footage. That's really messed up, Tucker. You should have issued an apology.
Love for debate continued at the school his soon-to-be wife's dad got him into. He also had a newfound love,
soon-to-be wife's dad.
Drinking. He reportedly spent most of his days at Trinity wasted, and it's unclear whether or not he was when the following took place. The CIA
just pause. This is insane that 3 million people are watching a guy who was drunk in college. He was drinking beers in college, and you listen to him every night on Fox News, and his stepmother's rich, and he dated the headmaster's daughter. How is this journalism? This guy, we're almost at the beginning of his career, and he hasn't really done anything worthy of being the #1 show on Fox News. It's insane. Trump's America has gone insane. And they say we have Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, you're the one listening to a beer drinker. Brett Kavanaugh loves beer.
Graduating seniors, liberal students held protests, which ended in a school debate. After those who were anti-CIA made their points, Tucker was asked to speak for the pro-CIA side. And so eloquently he did. Honestly, what I really think is you're all a bunch of greasy chicken. That's all he said before walking out. Carlson graduated.
I'm a liberal, and if there's one thing that we are good at, it's debating and having honest discussions. And the right never wants to talk to us. They just insult us and walk away. When we go to rallies, we're trying to discuss things with people. We want to go on shows and help people and debate, and we just get called insulting names and they run away. How are we supposed to learn? Tucker was setting the stage here for the future where he never lets liberals on and he never lets the left have their say. He just thinks we're chicken fuckers.
With a bachelor's in history from Trinity in 1992. Upon graduation, he tried to get a job working for the CIA, but unfortunately the federal agency didn't want him.
Just pause. Hey, loser, not only does your mom not love you, but you can't even get in the CIA. Go drink another beer. Go ahead.
Did call the agency's critics greasy chicken. His dad said he should try his hand at journalism because they'll take anybody. He was right. Carlson landed at Policy Review as a fact checker. I ended up working for this magazine because the standards are so low.
See?
Carlson told.
Just pause. That's a fact right there. You have Tucker Carlson admitting that he shouldn't be a journalist. No one's listening. Tucker himself is screaming out to the world and saying, don't hire me, I'm wrong. And the world won't listen. Well, I'm listening.
Told the Columbia Journalism Review. From there, he went on to work for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Whatever that is.
He wrote a number of articles and even a book called People versus Crime, How Citizens Can Restore Order to America's Streets. But after finding out he didn't know how to restore order to America's streets, he reimbursed the publisher's advance.
Just pause. He doesn't even know how to restore order to America's streets. And he's not in the CIA, and his mom doesn't love him, and his girlfriend's rich. That's not a journalist. And the fact that he didn't go through with a book about crime means that he's a liar. Go ahead.
And canceled the book deal. If only there was a book to teach him. In 1995, he went on to write for the Weekly Standard. While Carlson did pen articles on the political climate of the late 90s, he also spent a lot of his time writing articles about squirrels pissing on his roof.
What?
How he did all the drugs from Fear and Loathing.
That's not
and
journalism.
another surely no one clicked on just titled Tater Tots.
Just pause. Why is anyone listening to a guy that had a headline that said tater tots? I mean, I didn't read the article. I think it might be about potato guns and how fun they are to shoot. That doesn't matter. What matters is, if you're a journalist, you should never have a jokey headline, ever, because it makes people not understand what you're doing, especially if your mother doesn't love you. 6.
Through the late 90s, Carlson started popping up on various news broadcasts. His transition to television was handed to him when he was in the right place at the right time. In his 2003 book, Carlson writes, I was heading back to my desk with a takeout hot dog one afternoon when I ran into the receptionist. She asked me what I knew about the OJ trial. My instinct was to answer honestly, just about nothing. But for some reason, I caught myself. I asked her why she wanted to know. Well, she explained, Dan Rather's booker just called looking for an OJ expert to go on 48 Hours Tonight. Everyone else is still at lunch. Can you do it? He must have killed, because after putting his hot dog down to become an OJ expert...
I think the hot dog thing says a lot. It says that he's trashy and garbage. There's so many different things you can eat in New York City or D.C. There's so much variety. There's so much Somalian food you can have. And you're having a hot dog because you're white trash. Your mother was right to leave you, Tucker Carlson, eating hot dogs like a piece of garbage. And he lied and pretended to be an expert about OJ. And then all he did was stay up all night reading about OJ so he'd have something to say in a 5-minute soundbite. He also, by the way, during all that research, Tucker came away thinking that OJ killed his wife. OJ killed his ex, whatever her name is, Nicole. Yeah, that's why the jury pardoned him and said he was innocent because he was guilty. Interesting journalism, Tucker.
Carlson was a regular on television. He once joked that if OJ Simpson didn't murder his wife, he wouldn't have a career in TV. But because OJ, according to Carlson, did murder his wife, Tucker landed a job at CNN.
Just
After
pause.
co-hosting...
Is there anyone more innocent than OJ Simpson? What kind of a white nationalist would accuse OJ Simpson of murdering his wife and almost cutting her head off? Disgusting. Racism everywhere. Go ahead.
In the Spin Room, a show canceled within months, Carlson co-hosted Crossfire, a debate show. A few short years after taking the job, comedian Jon Stewart came on the program and
Just
called
pause
Carlson
for a second here. This loser had a show, and it only lasted for a few months, and then he had another show. What a complete nothing. What a crap career. And where do you see Jon Stewart nail him? I guess he's Scottish, right, Stewart?
America.
It's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today.
Nailed it.
And say,
Wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Stop.
The show was canceled shortly after Jon Stewart's intervention.
By the way,
Sean Klein-
if a show is canceled after something happened, it's because of that thing.
CNN's president at the time said, "I agree wholeheartedly with Jon Stewart's premise."
Therefore,
but
he fired Tucker.
MSNBC didn't. Carlson went on to host a show of his very own, creatively called Tucker, where he revealed what's on his mind 24/7.
Can we just pause here?
Average man.
Can we just pause it here? Why does this guy keep getting gigs? Is it because of the Swanson thing? Is it because of the TV dinners thing? Whoever makes TV dinners has way too much influence in media because they're letting an incompetent guy who wrote the word tater tots get back on TV again and again and again.
Has a porno movie on a continuous loop going in his brain at all times, and you don't?
My brother
I've been
Gavin
told
said that.
More or less. I have a hard time believing it, but if you say so.
So why aren't you the most successful man in the world?
The network
He's not
canceled the
joking there.
show
He's being
due to low
serious.
ratings in 2008. In May of 2009, Fox News just couldn't resist Carlson's past record of consistently
being
getting
serious.
canceled and decided to give him a shot. First as a contributor, then as a substitute guest host for Sean Hannity's show. Unlike everywhere else Carlson had been up to this point, including Dancing with the Stars.
Look, he
Fox
fell asleep when he
News
stayed up
saw
all night
something
once.
in him.
Just pause it here. It just sucks that I this narrator who wrote Now This is never going to have even a millionth of the career that Tucker's had. And it's just so frustrating that people like me and people like the guy narrating this Now This video and people like the one who wrote it are never going to have a show, are never going to have critical acclaim, are never going to have 3 million people watching them every night. And it's not fair. That's why I like people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who talk about distributing things evenly. We need journalistic success distributed evenly to people like this guy and people like me. We deserve a show. And I think it's time that the government got involved in giving out shows.
Really asleep.
I wouldn't sleep if you gave me a job
the side,
on
he
Fox and
continued to
Friends.
build up his resume. In 2010, he launched the site The Daily Caller, the website home to headlines
he get his
like
own site?
Jennifer Love Hewitt's Cleavage, A History, and
See, that's a
Persons.
stupid thing. I wouldn't have done that if I could have had a job like that. I want a website. I wouldn't have made a pun about Syria Slee Hot. I never make puns like that. It's not fair.
Syrian refugees we'd take immediately, which is just a list of photos featuring seriously hot women. In 2015,
Give
Daily
this guy that job.
Caller staffers got into an argument with a spokeswoman for New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio after they ran a piece on him. The mayor's spokeswoman, Amy Spittelnick, had requested a correction to the piece. Carlson, angry with her request, fired back, "Outside of New York City, adults generally write polite, cheerful emails to one another, even when asking for corrections. Something to keep in mind
And by the
next
way,
time
the fact that she wrote a really vicious email that made him respond like that is totally irrelevant.
you communicate with people who don't live on your island." For some reason, Carlson's brother Buckley got in on the fun. Buckley responded, "Whiny little self-righteous bitch. Appalling, and with such an ironic name too, Spittelnick. Ironic because you know she just has extreme dick fright. No chance has this girl ever had a
So
pearl
sexist.
necklace. Spooge neck? I don't think so. More like labia face." After
Just
the
pause.
char-
Isn't that the one thing I do want to say? My brother has said some very disgusting things, And this is one problem I have with this video, where Tucker is getting in trouble for what his brother did. We're not responsible for our brother's sins. So the only thing I disagree with in this whole video is lumping in someone's brother with their reputation. My brother has done nothing but harm to society, and I am trying to undo that evil, and I have a Bucky in my life, Gavin McInnes. So we shouldn't be punished for our brother's sins. One mistake so far now, that's pretty good.
Chain saw the light of day. Tucker responded to BuzzFeed about the incident. I just talked to my brother about his response, and he assures me he meant it in the nicest way.
Didn't apologize?
So, of course, Fox News decided to give him his very own show. Days after the 2016
Why do they keep giving this guy shows?
Carlson landed the biggest gig of his life, hosting Tucker Carlson Tonight.
He gets his own show? I don't have my own show. Now this guy doesn't have his own show. He just has this Facebook video. It's not fair. Cortez, can you hear me?
Premiere was the most watched telecast of the year in that time slot. His show advertises itself as the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. After Bill O'Reilly was forced out of the network for settling sexual harassment allegations out of court, Carlson took his time slot. He may have played it safe on Dancing with the Stars, going with a classic cha-cha routine, but when he's behind the desk with a camera in his face, he goes much harder, saying things that have white supremacists cheering him on.
Precisely is diversity our strength?
Restaurants.
Since we made this our new national motto, please be specific as you explain
Restaurants.
Do you get along better with your neighbors or your coworkers if you can't understand
do if they're making me food.
Among the 91% white audience tuning into Fox, a few stand out, as a Vox explainer first noted. First, former Grand Wizard of the KKK, David Duke. He's tweeted his support for Carlson numerous times. Duke's called Carlson a hero.
Can you just pause it here? I want to make something crystal clear. If I had my own show, I wouldn't have David Duke liking it. And if you made me #1 on Fox, if the government made me a show that 3 million people watched, my brother would not be involved and no racist would like it. And here's another thing I want to make perfectly clear. If a racist likes anything you do or agrees with you about anything, then you're racist. So if you have any Venn diagram with any kind of racist, I don't care if they drink Gatorade and you drink Gatorade. That makes you a racist. All dogs are mammals, and all cats are mammals. Wait a minute. Just play it.
For exposing white ethnic cleansing, and he even has a nickname for his favorite host, Tucker Knows Carlson. Cute. Joining the former KKK Grand Wizard at the Tucker Carlson fan club
loves
table
Tucker
is white
Carlson.
supremacist Richard Spencer. He's described Carlson as a much better figure than Bill O'Reilly because Carlson has open-mindedness. The neo-Nazi white supremacist website, The Daily Stormer, also got in on the fun.
That's 3.
They noted,
3
Tucker
strikes, you're out.
Carlson is basically Daily Stormer the show, and other than the language used, he is covering all of our talking points. The article then goes on to throw Jewish slurs at Michael Cohen. With viewership
Just pause
like
it here. That's another thing I want to make clear. If someone who's a white nationalist likes you and then goes on to say other bad things, then you've said those things.
It's not surprising that the president also tunes in.
Racist.
A source close to Trump said they aren't personally close. He's not getting strategic advice from him directly the way he might from a Hannity, but they do chat on occasion, mostly Trump complimenting a segment here and there.
Just pause here. Do you realize what's going on? This guy who was drunk in college, whose mother hated him, who dated a TV dinner, and wrote about tater tots, is now telling the president what to do and is running the country.
He likes him, and it's not unusual for him to be exposed to issues through Tucker's show and others. One particular issue that made its way from Carlson's show to the White House was a segment where Carlson claimed a large-scale killing of white farmers is currently taking place in South Africa. The segment was filled with chyrons like, South Africa farm seizures begin, and South African government is now seizing land from white farmers.
That is so insane. I don't know where this rumor started, but have you heard this? People actually think that white farmers in South Africa are being attacked. They actually believe that the government wants to take back land from farmers and give it to, I guess they're not African Americans, Africans. That is a lie. We heard this same lie when before Zimbabwe was Zimbabwe, back when it was Rhodesia. They pretended that Rhodesian farmers were getting attacked, and you're like, what? That's not true. White farmers are totally safe in South Africa, as safe as they were, at least in Rhodesia. And sometimes when you Google it, they have fake pictures there that are photoshopped.
Trump definitely watched the segment because he tweeted about it. I have asked Secretary of State @SecPompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. @Tucker Carlson, @Fox News. It's obvious that Trump seemingly didn't do any research of his own after staring at the TV, because if he did, he'd know this actually isn't happening. There have been no land seizures to date. No farms have been taken from white farmers without compensation. South African white farmers are not being murdered by black people, and the law which would allow these seizures hasn't even been passed.
Wait a minute, just pause. The law that would allow that hasn't been passed yet? I don't think there's even a law. I don't think that the government was even discussing stealing that. And you can see in the photo, look, they're all just hanging out. Everything's fine. Like, use your eyes. If you hear that white farmers are being killed in South Africa, look at this video footage. They're obviously not. Everyone's having a great time in South Africa, especially farmers. And if there's any farmers in South Africa that are complaining, they're being babies and they're lying.
What used to be an online white supremacist theory now has the president's ear, confirming the views of people like Richard Spencer and David Duke that non-white people are the enemy. Spreading misinformation such as this can, well, Carlson said it best.
If you create a news organization whose primary objective is not to deliver accurate news, you will fail. You will fail.
Just pause.
The New York
that is the smoking gun right there. Because we've been watching this video, Tucker get fired again and again and again and have a terrible career because everyone hates him. And that he admitted himself right there. He said, if you lie a bunch, then you're going to get fired and you're going to suck. And he sucks. You walked into your own trap there, Tuck.
Times is a liberal paper, but it's also, and it is to its core a liberal paper, it's also a paper that cares about whether they spell people's names right, by and large. It's a paper that actually cares about accuracy. Conservatives need to build institutions that mirror those institutions.
Why would
Taking everything...
How come I'm not on a podium at a conference? Why does he gets all this stuff because he's rich? He probably bought that podium. He buys all his shows. The Swanson chick gets some stuff. He was drinking beer at Trinity College and he still graduated. Doesn't add up.
Carlson says as truth can have serious consequences when the person tuning in is the leader of the free world. If only Trump and Carlson were on bad terms again. In 2016, Carlson wrote, about 15 years ago I said something nasty on CNN about Donald Trump's hair. I can't now remember the context, assuming there was one. In any case, Trump saw it and left a message the next day. It's true you have better hair than I do, Trump said matter-of-factly, but I get more pussy than you do. The future president then hung up.
Just
Carlson
pause.
has...
I want to make it clear that when you see things like that quote about more pussy, he's not kidding. And when you see him on Dancing with the Stars, he's being dead serious. And when he writes tater tots on a headline, he's trying to impart to you how important and newsworthy potatoes are. Don't fall for it.
This assumption.
It's not a joke.
How many women have you had sex with in your life?
A lot. 100.
Because you went, what?
It was a short window, but I packed it full.
Cool story, bro.
I think he says meet you at the quad after that.
See you in the quad.
See you in the quad. I'm glad we ended that with my idiotic brother talking. I remember seeing that being discussed, and Judd Apatow tweeted out that same clip, and he said, "This is us at our worst," and he meant humanity, and that is so true. But I don't agree with now this in making Tucker's brother responsible for Tucker, and I don't think I should be responsible for this idiotic turd saying sexist things about having sex. Look, there's something going on here with the free market, and it's messing up, and we have to do better as socialists to impart more equality, more diversity, and not just diversity when it comes to ethnicity and race and immigration, but diversity of success. Someone like me or this guy, we deserve to have 3 million viewers on a major cable network. And someone's got to give it to us.